We continue now at the top of Daf Samech and Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 62b. The Gemara continues with a statement of Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Hachi Tana Kamei. This is what he taught in front of him. Rashi says, Hachi Tana Kamei Rabbi Zakkai Kamei Rabbi Yochanan. This is the brisa that Rabbi Zakkai taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan. This was on the previous Amud. And Rabbi Yochanan responded, Pok Tani Levruk, go teach that outside. He said the brisa is no good. And so now he's bringing the brisa in full. The brisa says as follows, Chomer b'Shabbos mishar mitzvahs. Shabbos is stricter than other mitzvahs, and Chomer b'shar mitzvahs mi b'Shabbos. And on the other hand, there's a stringency by other mitzvahs with regards to Shabbos. Chomer b'Shabbos, the stringency by Shabbos is as follows. Shabbos asa shtayim b'helam echad, because when it comes to Shabbos, if a person does two malachas and it's in one lack of understanding, chayav al kol achas v'achas. If it's one mistake, so then he has to bring a korban for every single malacha. Masha ein kein b'shar mitzvahs. This is not true when it comes to other mitzvahs. And Chomer b'shar mitzvahs, and there's a stringency by other mitzvahs. Shabashar mitzvahs shagag below meskavein chayiv, because in other mitzvahs, let's say there was a mistake and the person did it without intention, he's going to be chayiv. Masha ein kein b'Shabbos, that's not true by Shabbos. On Shabbos, without intention, is going to be pater. And now we're going to analyze the brisa. Amar Mar, the master said, Chomer b'Shabbos, there's a stringency by Shabbos, Shabbos, asa shtayim, because again, when it comes to Shabbos, if you do two malachas, you're going to be chayiv a korban on each one. And so the Gemara says, Hey Chidami, what exactly is the case? Ilema da'avad kitsira utachina. If you're going to say that what the brisa means is, you're doing two separate malachas, you're doing a malach of kitsira, of harvesting, and a malach of tachina, of grinding. So let's compare that by other mitzvahs. Da'achal chaylev adam, for example, the person ate chaylev and dam, two different forbidden things to eat. So there's no difference there. Hachatarti mechayev, v'hachatarti mechayev. Here you have to bring two karbonos, and here also you have to bring two karbonos. In both cases, you would bring two karbonos. So that cannot be what the brisa means. Ella, rather, you'll say as follows: Gabe shar mitzvahs de'eno chayev el achas. What's the situation by other mitzvahs where you only chayev one? Hechi dami, what would be the case? Diachal chaylev v'chaylev. So the case might be that the person ate chaylev and then he ate chaylev again. So the gabe Shabbos. So let's do a similar case by Shabbos. Diavad kitziru. Let's say he harvests and then he harvests again. So hachachad mechayev. So there also you're going to be chayev one in both situations, both by other mitzvahs and by Shabbos as well. V'hainu damar lei, and that's why he said to him, Pok tani levra, go teach that outside. This brisa does not make sense. But the Gemara continues, my kosher, but what really is so difficult? Dilma maybe liola meimulach. Maybe I can say to you as follows. Diavad kitsira utachina. The case by Shabbos would be where he did kitsira and tachina, harvesting and grinding. Masha ein kein b'shar mitzvahs, and what does it mean that that's not true by other mitzvahs? Asan la'avodas kochavim. Maybe that's coming to discuss specifically avodas zara, and that would be kid Rabbi Ami. That would be like Rabbi Ami says, Diyam Rabbi Ami, because Rabbi Ami says zibeyach v'kiter v'nisach b'helam echad. If he sacrifices and burns and does libations, and it's all in one helam, that's all part of one mistake. Eino chayiv elachas. So in that situation, he's only chayiv one, and that's the distinction the Bryce is making. And the Bryce is making a distinction between Shabbos and avodas zara. And the Gemara continues, Lo mesuk malei ba'avodas kochavim. The reason why we cannot give this answer, that the Bryce is contrasting Shabbos with avodas zara, is because you cannot say that the Bryce is talking about avodas zara. The Katani Sefer, because when we look at what the Bryce teaches at the end, it said Chomer b'shar mitzvahs, that it said that there's a stringency by other mitzvahs. Sheb'shar mitzvahs shagag below meskavin chayev, because by other mitzvahs, if the person did it without intention, he's chayev. So we have to explain that other mitzvahs is talking about avodas zara according to this potential answer. But shogeg below meskavin b'avodas kochavim, when it comes to a mistake, meaning without intention by avodas zara, heichi dami, what would the case be in that situation? Either kasavar beis hakneses, so if he thought it was a beis hakneses, he thought it was a shul, v'hishtachevelo, and he bowed to it, harei libo l'shamayim. So in that case, the person wouldn't be chayiv in such a situation because his heart is towards the heavens. Ella, rather, the chaza in derata, the case is that he saw a statue, again, like we said on the previous summer, previous daf, if he saw a statue of a king, let's say, v'sagidle, and he bowed to it. So again, it depends. He kible ale beloa. If he accepted it as a god, so mezidu, that's considered on purpose. That's fully serving avodah zara. V'lo kible ale, and if he didn't accept it, lo klumi, so then it's nothing. And so then again, what are we going to say we're talking about at this end of the brisa, where it says chomer b'shar mitzvahs, that lo miskavin is chayiv? So Ella, rather, maybe you'll suggest, me'avo me'yira, you'll say the case is that he's doing it out of love or fear, as we discussed the machlokas between Abaye and Rava before. So hanichali Abaye, that would work out according to Abaye, because Abaye says said, if a person worships Avodah Zarah based on love or fear of a person, it's not because he's worshiping the Avodah Zarah as a god. Abaye said, you're indeed chayiv in that situation, so you could work out the brisa then. So it's hanichali Abaye damar chayiv. It would work out according to Abaye who says chayiv in that case. But ela l'Rava damar pater. But according to Rava who says pater, ma'ikol amemar. So again, what are we going to say? What can it possibly mean by Avodah Zarah that lo miskavin is chayiv? So ela rather you have to say, according to Rava, b'yomer mutter, you'll have to say the cases where he says he thinks that it's mutter to worship Avodah Zarah. But the problem is, if you're going to say it's omer mutter, the brisa was contrasting with Shabbos, where that same case is pater. Masha ein kain b'Shabbos the pater lagamri. You're saying that that's not true by Shabbos. On Shabbos you're not chayiv. Rather on Shabbos you're totally pater, and you're trying to say that's by a case of omer mutter. But that's not true, because ad kan lo boy minei Rava meir of Nachman, because Rava only asked Rav Nachman helim zev v'zev. If a person, let's say, he didn't know, not only did he not know about the malachas, he didn't know about Shabbos altogether, he knew about none of it. So there was a question over there whether you're chayiv multiple karbanos or one. The whole question was ela ilach yuvei chada ilach yuvei tarti. The question was, is he chayiv one karban, is he chayiv two karbanos, multiple karbanos? Pater legamri lekal mandamar. Nobody said it's totally pater, so you can't say that the end of the brisa is talking about omer mutter either. And so therefore you cannot say that the brisa is talking about avodah zarah. But the Gemara says, my question, but still what's so difficult? Maybe I can really say to you, Reisha b'avodas kochavim, the first part of the brisa is contrasting Shabbos and Avodah Zarah, like we said. The Seifa, and then the end of the brisa, which cannot be talking about Avodah Zarah. B'shar mitzvahs, we're just talking about other mitzvahs there at the end of the brisa. We're not talking about Avodah Zarah. V'shagag below miskavin, and then you could say that what's considered a mistake without intention by other mitzvahs, by chayla, for example. To kasavar roku, for example, he thinks that this is spit. Ubolo, when he swallows it, he doesn't realize that it's chaylev. He has no idea that it's chaylev, and you're chayiv in that case. Masha ein ken b'Shabbos to pater, and that's not true on Shabbos, where you'd be pater in a similar case. Sheneskaven l'hagbias atolish v'chotach es hamachuber pater. For example, if he had intention to pick up something that was already detached from the ground, but instead he ends up cutting something that's attached to the ground, so you're pater in that case. And that would be a good contrast to Chidr of Nachman Amar Shmuel, because that would follow what Rav Nachman said that Shmuel said. The Yamar who says, "Hamisasek b'chalavim u'va'arayos." If a person is misasek, means without any intention whatsoever by chaylev, eating chaylev, or by arayos, by illicit relationships, so chayiv in that case is chayiv. Shekei nana, because the person did get pleasure, he benefited. But hamisasek b'Shabbos. But if somebody similarly is misasek on Shabbos, again, like we said, he thinks he's going to pick up something detached from the ground, but it was really mechuber, it was really attached. So hamisasek b'Shabbos pater. When somebody's misasek on Shabbos, he's pater, because meleches machsheves asur Torah. Because the Torah only says it's asur if it's meleches machsheves. There has to be that intention, and misasek is not considered meleches machsheves. And the Gemara continues and answers the reason why Rabbi Yochanan cannot interpret this brisa, that the beginning of the brisa is contrasting Shabbos with Avodah Zarah, and the end of the brisa is contrasting Shabbos with other mitzvahs, is Rabbi Yochanan the time. It's Rabbi Yochanan according to his reasoning, because he doesn't want to say that a brisa, the beginning of that brisa is talking about one line of reasoning, and the end of that brisa is talking about another line of reasoning. Rabbi Yochanan in general does not want to interpret brisas in that fashion. The Yom Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan said, if anybody can explain to me the case of chavis, the case of the barrel, that's a Mishnah in Hamafkid in Meseches Bab Metzia, anyone who can explain it according to one Tana, Movilna money Basra Levei Masusa, I'll carry his clothing after him to the bathhouse. The point over here is, again, in that case as well, he didn't want to explain the beginning according to one line of reasoning and the end according to another line of reasoning. And the Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to what we said above, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Gimel Amid Aleph.